What if Earth stopped spinning for 5 seconds? Before we start, one important point. Earth is not about to stop spinning. There is no large switch behind the moon, no bored alien leaning on the controls, no cosmic mechanic saying, "Let's pause the blue one and see what happens." This is a thought experiment, which is a respectable scientific phrase meaning, let us imagine something impossible, and then allow physics to ruin everyone's afternoon. So here's the question. What if Earth suddenly stopped spinning for 5 seconds? 5 seconds sounds harmless. It is barely enough time to sneeze, regret a sentence, or realize you have waved at someone who is waving at the person behind you. But when the thing stopping is a planet, 5 seconds is no longer a small amount of time. It is a catastrophe with excellent timing. Right now, Earth is rotating. You do not feel this because everything nearby is rotating with it. Your chair, your house, the air, the oceans, your breakfast, and at least one pigeon standing somewhere with completely undeserved confidence. At the equator, Earth's surface moves at about 1,670 kilometers per hour. That is faster than the speed of sound. Yet it feels still because you, the ground, the air, and everything else are traveling together. Stillness is not the absence of motion. Stillness is agreement. Now remove the agreement. Imagine the solid Earth stops instantly. The ground stops. The mountains stop. The roads stop. The continents stop. Unfortunately, you do not. You were already moving with the planet. So was the atmosphere. So were the oceans. So was every object not anchored deeply enough to argue with inertia. At the equator, anything loose would keep moving eastward at roughly 1,670 kilometers per hour. A person would not gently fall over. A car would not roll into a hedge in a thoughtful manner. Buildings, trees, animals, vehicles, furniture, and large portions of civilization would try to continue their previous journey while the ground beneath them stopped participating. It would be less like tripping and more like discovering that the entire world has become a conveyor belt operated by a lunatic. The effect would be strongest near the equator and weaker toward the poles. At the exact poles, the rotational speed is much lower because you are mostly turning in place rather than racing around Earth's widest middle. This means geography matters. A person at the equator has an extremely bad day. A person near the pole has a less extremely bad day, which in this scenario is the kind of comfort offered by a dentist saying, at least it is not both teeth, but the ground is only the opening act. The atmosphere would keep moving. Air has mass. Air has momentum. Air does not receive polite instructions from a stopped planet. To people on the surface, the moving atmosphere would become a global windstorm of almost unimaginable violence. A wind faster than sound is not weather in the familiar sense. It is a wall, a screaming, invisible wall, carrying dust, debris, water, roofs, trees, cars, and the accumulated poor decisions of every garden furniture manufacturer on Earth. The forecast would be simple. Today, wind. Tomorrow, no recognizable infrastructure. Then come the oceans. They too have been rotating with Earth. If the solid planet stops, the water keeps going. Imagine carrying a bowl of soup and stopping suddenly. The soup surges forward. Now make the bowl a planet and the soup the Pacific Ocean. This is not a spill. This is a planetary tantrum. Coastlines would not be flooded so much as assaulted. Oceans would surge inland, dragging ships, buildings, soil, trees, and cities with them. Maps would become emotional documents rather than useful ones. And remember, the planet only stopped for 5 seconds. Then it starts again. This sounds like the helpful part. It is not. Restarting Earth would be like slamming a car into an invisible wall, waiting 5 seconds, and then firing it forward again while everyone inside is still airborne and holding soup. The ground begins moving again. The air is already in chaos. The oceans, having strongly disagreed with the continents, now receive another shove. The disaster does not last 5 seconds. The 5 seconds begin it. Winds, waves, fires, impacts, debris, broken power grids, contaminated water, destroyed infrastructure, and reshaped coastlines would continue long after the imaginary pause ended. Physics is rarely theatrical, but it is very thorough. The human brain struggles with this because we are built for small disasters. A dropped phone, a broken plate, a dog entering a clean house with muddy feet. A planet stopping is beyond normal imagination. So shrink it. You are in a car moving at highway speed. You feel comfortable because you and the car share the same motion. Then the car stops instantly. You keep moving. Your drink keeps moving. Your phone keeps moving. Every loose object becomes a tiny legal matter. Now make the car the size of Earth and the speed far higher. That is the problem. Motion does not vanish because the ground has changed its mind. This thought experiment is useful precisely because it is impossible. It reminds us that everyday calm depends on enormous hidden motion behaving consistently. Earth spins. The air comes along. The oceans come along. The buildings come along. Your breakfast comes along. The whole system works because everything keeps its appointment. Break one rule suddenly, and the ordinary world becomes violent. That is the unsettling beauty of physics. It does not need monsters. It does not need villains. It does not even need dramatic music, though it would probably deserve some. It only needs one small question. What if this one thing changed? And then the answer arrives carrying a continent. So if Earth stopped spinning for 5 seconds, it would not be a dramatic pause. It would not be a cosmic freeze frame. It would not be people floating gently while violins played. It would be inertia doing exactly what inertia does. People, air, oceans, buildings, and everything loose would keep moving. The winds would roar. The seas would surge. The restart would add another wave of violence. And 5 seconds would be enough to make the world almost unrecognizable. Which leaves us with the strangest comfort of all. Right now, you are traveling at enormous speed on a rotating sphere wrapped in moving air and covered in sloshing oceans. And yet the kettle works. That is not boring. That is miraculous teamwork. If you enjoyed this strange little journey, subscribe and help us reach 1 million curious minds. There are many more weird facts hiding in plain sight, and we intend to bother all of them.